Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Wynne's World of Numerology, which I believe is a language your soul already knows and can lead you to true inner freedom and soul organizing your life rather than organizing our lives around that pesky little ego. And today we're going to dive into that pesky little ego because it's one of the biggest reasons, if not the biggest reason, why our lives don't run as smoothly as they could. And we're also going to talk about how that shows up as karma in your numerology chart. So, hope you stick with me here. All right. Again, in episode 3, you learned how to decode your name and birthday to answer the two most fundamental questions I would say are worth asking, which is who am I and why am I here? So, why is it so hard to answer these questions and figure out the answer? Well, this episode is going to dive into the two main energies, that is the pesky little ego and the karma associated with our charts, that are going to distort our experience of life. So, rather than completely experiencing life as this beautiful oneness experience, we have a lot of distortions, a lot of misperceptions, and a lot of pain. And that pain can lead to suffering and so on. So, again, we're going to go over karma and the ego. The karma can be seen on your numerology chart. That what can't be seen on your chart is the psychological ego, as Freud had called it. And both of these get in the way of our ability to learn and our ability to outwardly express ourselves authentically into the world. So I want to start with what you might have seen on other episodes, which is the solar cross. And this is where all the symbols of the numbers come from. But I want to explain a little bit more about the different quadrants of the solar cross. So, our energy, you can imagine, is coming down from heaven for a symbol, right? There's a symbol, and it starts to move clockwise around the solar cross. And the first quadrant is our spirit. So, the first thing that comes into the earth's plane is our spirit. And then our spirit comes around and gets into a physical body, and you're birthed as an infant and all the fun things that go along with the body. And then our body begins to produce chemicals, emotions, sensations, and just all of the capacity, nervous system ways that we have to interact with the world because we're feeling beings. And that is the truth of our experience here. So emotions begin to form. And then finally, we are told who and what we are on this planet. And we start to form a mental picture of who we are. So, in a nutshell, we often lead with thoughts on this planet, but honestly, it's not what makes us human. It's actually the last thing that comes online, and why we're listening to it more than our emotions and our spirit or our body. I think that's a problem. So I think it's important to address the psychological ego before we get in depth into numerology because it affects us so much. Okay. So, what is this that we're talking about right now? And that is the mental activity of the brain. And the brain is, kind of locked up here in the dark in a skull. And it doesn't really have anything other than some basic senses and a story behind it to kind of understand the world. The mind is going to tell the body that it is separate, that it's alone, that it needs protection. And again, this is often a confused and distorted state. And again, we then develop a personal identity of who we are in this world. And sometimes that can feel really good. And sometimes that can feel not so great. So, another point to take into consideration is that each individual ego is, I guess, born out of the egos that raise it. And that can be as simple as parents all the way to our collective planetary ego that has existed for thousands and thousands of years. So, okay, how does the ego form? Well, at a young age, well meaning people start to withhold love and acceptance from us to teach us societal right from wrong. And this withholding can look simple, right? I'm a 3-year-old child and I am running out into the street and my mother grabs me and shakes me and tells me not to do that and maybe hits me on the butt real quick to say, like, don't do that, right? But the 3-year-old child innocently does not remotely understand what went wrong. It's, only knows that it did something wrong and that someone that loved them got upset, right? And this is sort of what happens over time, whether it's our grades or our coaches or whatever. So, this constant withholding of pure love and acceptance for everything that's happening gets our systems out of alignment, gets our emotions and bodies and minds out of alignment. And in turn, we humans create an entire world that's out of alignment with the way the creator sees us. So, one example to understand, like, what does this little itty bitty withholding of love do to us? Well, compare this to the first conscious time that maybe someone gave you a gift and you thought, oh, I don't deserve that, or you shouldn't have, I can't accept, everything that's given to me. And it becomes a lie that we believe, right? That this conditioned mind is saying, like, you should not only know that you will have love withheld from you for doing something wrong, but you should withhold love from yourself or not accept it from others, because that's how you become a functioning individual in our society. And so, sadly, the personal ego is born like a drop of water out of the ocean, right? The ocean is there, it's unavoidable. You get soaked in it, you come out and you're just part of the egoic experience on this planet. And then you get to develop your own, as time goes on. So different egos do different things. But basically, when an ego feels that it is unlovable, it will start collecting material goods or identities, or it will collect a victim mentality to firm up the value or an understanding of where's my place in this society, because I feel separate and alone and I'm not really sure and I really need some certainty. So again, person A in this situation is going to start withholding love from themselves. And then they're going to start withholding loves from person C, D, and E, maybe gossip about them in high school or break up with someone because they don't love them the right way or whatever it is. And, at the very least, we just judge people and withdraw. So other scenarios, some people create a lot of power over other people. They want to either create a just and right society, or they want to control other people's behaviors, and they want to tell people what is right or wrong. And for lack of a better term, this becomes a shit show. And you can pretty much insert every story of every human suffering or pain inflicted from one human to another. Anytime we develop a negative perception of ourselves or of other people and we generate an us versus them, we withhold acceptance from either ourselves or from others. And our nervous systems start to say, like, okay, you have to rely on stress. You cannot trust yourself for the world, and probably shouldn't have that much self-worth because, you have to go out and earn what it is that you have been lacking all this time. So we're starting to believe now I'm separate, I'm not safe, I'm lacking. And we become more and more aware of pervasive negative thoughts that we have about ourselves that we didn't have, when we were born. We didn't have them. So, the good news here, guys, is free will gives us the opportunity to reverse this upside down relationship that is occurring. And free will is going to give us the opportunity to see that we and other human beings on this planet are born whole and complete and a perfect version of the creator. And we can settle down and start to work on our own egoic experience. And if we can learn to fully love and accept ourselves as our souls do, then when you move into your numerology chart, you will experience almost no friction in understanding, like, oh, this is why this is happening, or this is the cycle that I'm in, or I'm not in control. So that's why I want to follow the pattern and the cycles and the energy and the rhythm and the movement of the chart itself. So until our egos are fully dissolved, karma will step in as needed. Okay, so what is karma? Well, karma is the accumulation of all of our individual and collective human actions ever on this planet that have occurred, that we have done when we have acted on our egoic impulses, when we have done things without thinking, when we have done things only for personal gain and not thinking about others as our motive, from habitual patterns that we have learned in society. And from probably the very worst is wanting to possess others or kill them. So karma itself will bring the life lessons to you. Like, it will bring you the outer circumstance for you to go, oh, this outer circumstance is making me reflect on my inner perception that seems a little distorted. And the idea is that that's an opportunity for you to dissolve your ego at least a little bit, or address collective ego wrongs. Like, there's a million things, right? We could list them all, but the collective ego has created quite a bit of separation, division, and misunderstandings. This could be from your ancestry. This could be from previous lifetimes that, you and I probably don't have a perfect record here on earth. And there's ways that the chart itself will help you use this current lifetime of experiences to create a counterbalance against our less than perfect actions. And karma will show up as 13, 14, 16, and 19 in your charts. And again, they will create rather intense experiences for you to digest. So if you want to go deeper and learn more about your karma in your chart, or as a psychotherapist, we can chat about how your ego shows up and distorts a lot of the experiences that you're having, probably to the negative side. You can book a session with me. You can go over questions, like I said, as a psychotherapist, or to get a numerology chart reading, or both. And included in a session, as always, is access to a free copy of my ebook, Soulganize Your Life, which does go into depth about the ego itself. So you can go to soulganize.com for more information, and all of the links are in the episode notes below. So until the next video, stay free, and I'll see you then. Thanks so much for hanging on for this entire video.